It's that time again. I don't really get to make a lot of these kinds of videos, but my goal, my dream, my ambition in life is to eventually not make this like my own one and only focus, but I would love to be able to just make a lot of YouTube content, like assigning zodiac signs to certain books that I loved and read. My only fear is that like if I don't read enough books, it's repetitious, and then you guys won't want to watch this. So I'm going to assign this to your moon and Venus sign. I don't know what the title of this video is going to be, but I do know this is zodiac signs or books that my 5-star reads as zodiac signs, as moon signs, and perhaps because I did Venus signs recently, and not all of these books are necessarily romantic, so I feel like it's kind of misleading to say books. But I will say all of my books that I love and read are predominantly very romantic in some way. Even if they're morbid, there's like a romanticism to it, a wistfulness to it. I can't help but have a type. But yeah, so these are my 5-star reads lately, and I'm assigning them to zodiac signs that they remind me of. And I will explain why, okay? So I'm gonna give Aries 2 books, and I'm going to also preface this with both books sound romantic at times, but are not romance novels. And if they are problematic romance novels. They are wrong to assign as romance novels. They are not romance novels. The first one literally is a Medusa retelling, so if you are into Greek mythology or know anything about Medusa's story, definitely read. Oh yeah, disclaimer for all these books that I'm recommending, please Google trigger warnings before you read any of them. I don't want to be responsible for triggering anyone. I go into everything blindly and trigger myself as a sport sometimes because I'm literally a Pluto and Scorpio generation. I blame it on being a Tumblr millennial, but yeah, so with that being said, so for Aries, I'm recommending the book Stone Blind. I'll put that here, oh here, whatever. It is a Medusa retelling, and it is such a beautiful book. Like, there are so many amazing quotes about it. However, it is devastating. I didn't cry. Like, it wasn't like Song of Achilles, like gut-wrenching, but it's gut-wrenching because you just, you know, you see someone be innocent and hopeful, and then you see the world crush them. So my dogs are barking. Take that as you will. Oh my god. Will they ever stop barking? Are we gonna just ignore them? Are we gonna keep going and then just pretend they're not barking? Will that bother you? Okay, we're just gonna try. We're gonna try to do that. So then the second book that I read, I put over here actually. Oh yeah, so if you can see this, I don't know if you can, but this is the Stone Blind book. Dark Descent of Elizabeth. Is it Elizabeth? Yeah. Elizabeth Frankenstein. If you have never heard anything about Frankenstein stories. So first, this book is problematic if you label it a romance novel because they are obsessed with each other. And the Aries rising in me loves it, eats it up, but identifies how problematic it is for a relationship to be healthy and obsessive. With that being said, most of the book are these two very problematic characters in love, madly in love, insanely. One of them may or may not be a serial killer who builds monsters, hence the person that invented Frankenstein. Kind of, not really. But long story short, it doesn't end well for one of them. Kind of either of them, if you look at it in like a philosophical sense. In terms of their relationship, it doesn't end well for either of them. But that like wasn't sounding like a spoiler because I'm not trying to spoil it. But problematic mystery, murder mystery, romantic novel. Not romance, romantic. There's a difference. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, and you're constantly unpacking a lot of stuff throughout the novel. You will race through this book. So that's why I'm giving it to Aries. I think Aries will enjoy it the most. I think Aries will appreciate Stone Blind and the Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein the most because they're both incredibly morbid, but also talking about like death and rebirth in some ways, or like having a lot thrown at you and still being able to take it in stride, and that just screams Aries. I think you're gonna appreciate it. You might not love it. Neither of them are very happy ending-ish, but I think you'll still really love them. Like, I think you'll love the experience of reading them. That's all I can... So Taurus, I'm giving to the Davenports. Now, I love this story, and I just reviewed it in my February 2023 wrap-up books I read. So if you've already watched that video, then you kind of know where this is going. But it's in the perspective of like 4 POVs, which I usually do not care about POVs that many. But I genuinely loved every single one. I ate it up. And they all have these really, really intense and cute and beautiful love stories. They're 4 girls, 4 black girls, it matters, in the 1920s of America before the Jim Crow era, with discussion of Jim Crow in the books. However, they are ritzy, Bridgerton, Gossip Girl, glamour, and based on a true story, which is really cool. I didn't know that people of color, specifically black people, could be so affluent right on the peak, on the cusp of Jim Crow era, because they were owning a business for carriages. And that is so, you know, there's not enough history awareness about this stuff, about all these business owners and these successes with their businesses and things like that. We don't hear anything other than about white people. So with that alone, there's a lot of history to it, a lot of truth to it, but there's a lot of romance. And I love a romance, but also a lot of it is in a time period where everyone is stiffly traditional, like literally the 1920s-ish era, like 1890s to 1920s kind of cusp era decade. So everyone is rooted in like what propriety, society, what looks good, what you're supposed to do, etiquette, like all of that, you know, Bridgerton vibe. That's the only way I could say it. Bridgerton vibe with Gossip Girl. I wouldn't say scandals, but like the glamour of Gossip Girl with the context of Bridgerton, and 4 different love stories, and it's a continuing series. So like, you won't have the worst cliffhanger, well, kind of. You won't have the worst cliffhanger when you finish the book, but you'll most likely want to read the next books. They haven't come out yet. Davenports. Davenports. My husband just made fun of me for how I pronounced it, so now I'm scared. I'll just put the book right here. But with that being said, I think you'll enjoy it. I think Taurus will really appreciate it, because Taurus has this passion to them, but also this respect for the things and people they care about. Not necessarily respect for tradition, but respect for the things people uphold and revere if they care about those people. So it's like they will respect someone who's super traditional even if they don't necessarily respect the tradition. I don't know, it's just, I can't really explain it. I just feel like Taurus people experience this and love it. So for Gemini, I'm actually giving you guys the sequel, the second book in a trilogy, which sounds weird, and you technically, I would say you can't really read this book without reading the first one, but this specific book in the trilogy just... Okay, so let me explain this first of all. It's the Caraval trilogy, but the first and second book are in different POVs of 2 sisters. So one sister is Scarlet Dragna, and she's a little bit more earth sign vibes. I don't know how else to say that. Earth or water sign vibes. And then the second sister is like the younger sister, the more mischievous one, the one that gets into the trouble, while the first one takes on like the mother role. So the second one is like Donatella Dragna, I believe. And she's more mischievous, she's more fun. And she also has a lot of like romance intrigue in like kind of a messy, fun way. Long story short, I think Gemini will really like this book. I really do think you need to read the first book though, but you could blindly jump into the second book and then just go back and read the first one later. But the second book and the perspective that you're reading it in, I think you'll enjoy it. It is kind of a romance, and there's 3 books in the series. Cancer. So Cancer I'm actually giving to the first book. If you just watched you might need to go back and watch my Gemini review, because it ties into this trilogy that I'm talking about. But long story short, it's a trilogy called Caraval, and it's in 2 POVs, 2 sisters. One is like the more maternal older sister who is more responsible and has to take care of her younger sister. So it's just more, not considerate, but kind of considerate because of life experiences making her be that way. And the second one is like the younger sister who gets to be mischievous and gets to be messy and gets to have fun because like she doesn't have to worry about the same responsibilities that her older sister does. Long story short, the second sister, Donatella Dragna, the younger one, I gave to Gemini for the sequel of the book 2 out of the trilogy. But I'm giving you book 1, which is Carve. And it's in the perspective of Scarlet Dragna, the older sister, the one I just described. But it's also like just a mysterious, romantic, romantic, intense trilogy series. And yeah, I've talked about this a lot on my channel, but it's like a mysterious, magical carnival, but it's in this very beautiful writing. There's a lot of romance. Her sister goes missing and she has to find her, but like she meets this, excuse me, she meets this guy along the way. He's mysterious and edgy and dark, and just screams Cancer energy to me, to be honest. But yeah, so Leo, I'm giving the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. However, you specifically will need to read Caraval, the trilogy, before you read this series, so I'm giving you 6 books, technically. But you're not going to appreciate Once Upon a Broken Hearts if you did not read the second book, Legendary, in the Caraval series about Jax. Jax is introduced in another trilogy, but Jax is the main love interest in this trilogy. So you need to read both to have that depth and understanding for him. But long story short, I'm giving you the first book. I'm giving you actually the whole trilogy. I don't think I'm assigning other people the books in that trilogy. Yeah, so with that being said, this trilogy is very intense and beautiful. This girl goes to make a deal with a legend who is kind of like making a deal with the devil. Everything always has a catch. Her life gets turned upside down. It's also like kind of Bridgerton vibes, like in like a period piece time, but in like a magical period piece time. So excuse my poor reference. I don't know another like magical world to reference, so you can comment below for another one. I do not support the author of this series, but it's like if Harry Potter and Bridgerton had a baby. That's like Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart. The books, these are the books, by the way. I'm waiting for the third book. It hasn't come out yet. I'm going insane. But this is the first 3, and this is the spin-off series of this. We're doing great. But yeah, so basically, she goes to make a deal with essentially someone who's like a devil. Her life gets turned upside down. There's romance. Then she ends up going to this other country to like be in a contest to win the prince's heart. But yeah, she makes a deal with like the devil, but he's really just called a legend. And he tells her that he has to pick 3 people that she has to kiss of his choosing. And one of them is the prince of this other country, that she ends up in this like Hunger Games selection style contest to win the prince's heart to be married to him or betrothed to him. Long story short, the legend, Jax, or he's not a devil, but I feel like he's like the trope of a devil, kind of like making a deal with the devil. He's like, you have to kiss the prince, and then things happen, and it's like a love triangle, and I'm done talking about this because I don't want to spoil it. It's intense. It's like God tier, one of my favorite series. I think I like it more than Caraval, honestly. And then, yeah, so I'm giving that to Leo because it's dark, it's mysterious, it's captivating. You're rooting for the bad boy. Like, I don't know, all of it's just so Leo. It's so dramatic too, like unnecessarily gut-wrenching. I'm a Leo sun and Mercury. If you're a Leo anything, read this. And then comment below and tell me what you think of it. And then next is Virgo. I'm giving Dead Romantics. Best book ever. First of all, I'm sure I've talked about this on my channel a few times. The Dead Romantics is a book about this girl who can see ghosts, and her father passes away. That's not a spoiler, it's on the back of the book. And then she goes to this small town. Mind you, she's like a ghostwriter for like a really big author. And she just met this new publicist. She goes to this she goes technically to her hometown to bury her father. And then the publicist that she just got hired to work over her, like as her boss, publicist or something like that, editor, something like that. He shows up at her town as a ghost, and she has to like help him cross over. And then she's like trying to deal with her dad. Meanwhile, there's like romance, and there's the biggest plot twist at the end. Everyone that I tell to read this book has cried and loved it, and there's a happy ever after. And that's all I'm gonna say about this. But also, like, the way that they talk in the book, the way that the narration is in the book is so Virgo energy. It's very like intelligent but dry humored and witty banter. Please just read it. And then the next book is Libra. I'm seeing that for Libra and Pisces, I gave you both the same book. Bold of me. I think I did it because it's just the best like erotic romance novel of all time. It's called The Right Move, and it's like, I'm usually not a sports romance girly, but lately I am getting into it because like no one seems to write anything else these days. But it's a guy who is like the biggest basketball star of the generation, and his sister is like, hey, can you do me a favor? My best friend just went through a breakup. She needs somewhere to crash for a little bit. And he's really private. He's super to himself. He's like, you know, like the perfect book boyfriend. The perfect book boyfriend of all time. Maybe Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart is a contender, but not not in a good way, in a problematic way. So this is the most unproblematic book boyfriend. But yeah, long story short, private, keeps to himself, most successful in the game. This messy girl comes and lives with him. She's going through a breakup. She's like the complete opposite of him. She's like the extroverted, messy, loves love, reads romance novels, and like this book boyfriend has been quoted for the best quote of all romance novels, and the quote is, "I love that you read romance novels to feel something." To the heart. I love it. But yeah, so I'm giving that to Pisces and Libra because I feel like they're going to appreciate it. I would also tell Pisces to read Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart, and if you did not listen to those reviews, go back to Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. Yeah, but those are my big books for Pisces. I think that Pisces and Libra will experience reading The Right Move in a way that they love it. They absolutely love it. And I also think Pisces will enjoy Caraval and the more mystical, magical romances too. I wouldn't say that Libra wouldn't, but I do think Libra sometimes, like Taurus, likes more conventional romance. Although this is like not really the most conventional romance. But anyways, I'm going on a tangent. So, oh, looks like I like didn't complete this. So for Scorpio, I'm gonna tell you to read. I didn't assign Scorpio anything. Why am I like this? I think for Scorpio, I would tell you guys to read 2 books that I've already talked about a lot. But I'm gonna tell you guys to read November 9, and I know that some people say it's problematic, so read trigger warnings because I happen to like it. I can't help it that I like it. Don't police me. Or Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Technically, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is less problematic, so I would recommend you read that first. But I do think you would enjoy experiencing both books because there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of mystery, there's a lot of unpacking, a lot of mystery, and a lot of plot twists that I think you'll appreciate more than anyone else. And then for Sagittarius, I wrote Take a Hint, Danny Brown. This is such a good book. This is a book about a girl and a guy who, he saved her at some point, and then the video of them goes viral, and then they like pretend to date. Fake dating trope. He's a hopeless romantic, she's not. So it's like Grumpy Sunshine, but he's the sunshine. And she's a bisexual queen, and we have, it's the best. I don't know. So I'm just saying, yeah, just read it. She's also like kind of like sarcastic and witty, and I feel like that's just very Sagittarius energy. But I also think Sagittarius will just really appreciate that book. And then Capricorn, I'm giving book lovers because it's like 2 workaholics falling in love, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. And then Aquarius, Ballad of Never After. If you want to hear what that is about, please watch my Gemini, Cancer, Leo reviews because they all talk about this series and this trilogy. It's 2 trilogies. One is a spin-off trilogy of another, but you really have to read like all 6 books. Technically, there's only 5 out right now, so you have to read all 5 books to really appreciate it. This one, specifically Ballad of Never After, is the sequel to the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and I gave you guys this one because it's more plot twists and more abstract thinking than the first one. So I feel like if you aren't a big fan, if you read the first one, you're really gonna like the second one. Yeah. And then Pisces, I gave The Right Move, but I already talked about that. So I guess that's my complete little, 22-minute video breakdown. And yeah, all of my social media links are down below, and I will see you in my next video.